Hey guys, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be starting on a reading vlog that I could not be more excited about, and that's going to be reading RM's book recommendations. RM from BTS. And if you're new to my channel, you might not know this, but I'm actually a really huge BTS fan. I've been a huge BTS fan for about a year now, and that's actually why I decided to make this video for the month of March, because as of this month, it's been 1 year since I've become a BTS fan. And RM, or Namjoon of BTS, you might hear me refer to him with both names because Namjoon is his real name and RM is his stage name. But Namjoon is my bias in BTS. I mean, he's one of two, okay? Because Yoongi and Namjoon are both my biases these days. I just double bias in them really hard right now. I'm just really a rap line girly, that's all I can say. But if you're unfamiliar with BTS, you might not know that Namjoon is the reader of the group. Like, he reads so many books and he's always talking about books. I literally found this link that has like every book that he's ever mentioned. And so I ended up choosing 4 books that I want to be reading for this video so that I can see what his taste is like and see if we have similar taste in books. But before we do jump into that, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service that I absolutely love using because I have found that I just have a hobby when it comes to trying different perfumes and trying to find the new smell that I just fall in love with. And because of Scentbird, I've actually discovered some of my favorite perfumes of all time that I'm not sure if I ever would have found or even tried if it wasn't for Scentbird, you know? So like, I think that's really special. I think the idea behind Scentbird is just so genius, you know, because you can try any designer perfumes. It does not matter how expensive that perfume is, but it's $17 every month to try it out. I think it's great because it's flexible, you know, so you can skip any month with no penalties and you won't be charged, or you can add on an extra 1 or 2 if you're wanting to try out a few scents that month. It's nice because every month you're getting a 30-day supplies. Like, these are freaking huge. I don't think you realize, like, these are not typical like perfume sample sizes. Like, no, these are ginormous. It should last you 30 days, which I think is amazing because usually you don't want to spend a ton of money on a perfume that you're not totally sure if you're gonna like or not. But I think being able to use it for 30 days will give you a really good idea of whether or not that's something you want to make the bigger purchase for, you know? I think it's pretty incredible that there are over 600 designer brands to choose from, even with brands like Prada and Gucci, like some of the more expensive, like Versace, like some of those big names that you hear, they are on there for the same price to try out for a month. I think it's cool too because with Scentbird, if you're not totally sure where to start or what you would even be looking for, they do have a little quiz that you can take just to kind of get, you know, the vibe of like what you might be looking for, and they can help direct you to a certain perfume, which is actually how I found one of my favorite perfumes of all time. And this time they ended up sending me a few perfumes, and I think I have found a new all-time favorite with one of the ones they just sent me. Some of the ones they sent me this time include this Petite Cherie. This one is from Paris. They also sent Scents of Wood, Vetiver in Bloom, which this one's also very nice. And this one I think is my new all-time favorite. It's Ueso Vert Sintra. Oh my gosh, this one has notes of bergamot oil, lavandine, sandalwood, and musk. I am absolutely obsessed with this. I've been spraying this on my wrist every single night before bed just because I love the way it smells so much. So go ahead and make sure to use my link down below and to use my code gabbyreads55 to get 55% off your first fragrance, which is only about $8 for your first month. Like, how amazing. And it's currently available in the US and in Canada. So thank you so much to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get back into the books. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, you know, this year in the month of March is actually my 1-year ARMY anniversary. And so really, I've been wanting to make this video for a couple of months now, like really ever since I became a BTS fan, because this boy, Namjoon, he's always got a book in his hand, okay? Everywhere he goes, he's reading books, he's recommending books, he's talking about books. And I do feel like in a lot of ways, this contributed to the reason why Namjoon ended up becoming my bias, because I just feel like he's a reader and I love that about him. It's funny because this all began because last year in March, I was doing a video that was like reading Korean thriller and horror books, and then I was reacting to BTS's latest album in that video, and I wasn't really expecting any of that to go anywhere. But then shortly after that, me and my mom decided to do this live show where we were going to be, you know, reacting to BTS music videos. And then I spent the rest of the night watching BTS music videos and their interviews, because like at this point in time, nothing is making me happier. And like, I'm not mad about it, you know, like the BTS thing, it's happening for me right now, and I don't know what it is. Like, their music makes me happy, their personalities make me happy, like their interviews are just so funny. And then you know how it is, you just fall down the BTS rabbit hole and then they consume all of your thoughts. Like, that's how this works. And I'm so excited to finally be checking out his books and seeing if we have similar taste. I will include the link down below that I used, by the way. That's like Namjoon's library, and it has a list of all the books that he's ever talked about, and if you click on the books, it takes you to like the clip where he's talking about them, which is super cool. But the first book that I'm going to be reading for this video is this book called The Stranger. This one is actually a classic. I think it was originally translated from French into English, but this is one that he mentioned when he did a live show back in like 2016. And he mentioned this book when he was talking about how his friend had recently said to him, "My life is so gray." And then he thought that that was such an interesting thing for his friend to say, and he kind of compared it to how powerful the first line of this book is.
너무 회색이었어. 근데 저는 그 문장이 너무 충격적이었어요. 마치 진짜 이방인에서 본 막 오늘 엄마가 죽었다, 아니 어쩌면 어제 막 그 문장의 도입부처럼 그냥 나는 내 삶은 그냥 회색이었어. 왜 이렇게 그때 그게 걔 입에서 나온 게 그렇게 충격이었는지 모르겠어.
And so this is definitely one that I'm planning to read. I have the audiobook checked out from my library, so that's how I'm going to be reading this one. And then I'm also going to be reading 1984 by George Orwell, which this one is another classic. This is one that I know a lot of people probably had to read when they were in high school or something. Like, a lot of people had this as required reading for classes, but I never did. And so I never got around to reading this one, but I've heard about it so much throughout the years, and I've been wanting to read George Orwell for the longest time. And so I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to. But this is a book that he mentioned in 2017. He mentioned it in an interview, and he was talking about how he was rereading the book again and how he was getting so much more out of it on a reread and reading this as an adult compared to the first time that he read this book.
굉장히 독서를 좋아하고요. 또 저는 이제 굉장히 오랜만에 다시 읽었는데 조지 오웰의 1984라는 책이 최근에 읽으니까 또 감회가 굉장히 새로워서 많은 분들이 읽으시면 또 옛날에 아마 읽으셨던 분들이 워낙 베스트셀러라 읽으셨던 분들이 많을 것 같은데 최근 다시 읽어보시면 또 감회가 남다르지 않을까.
And then the next book that I'm going to be reading for this video is Kim Jiyoung, born 1982. And this one is from a Korean author, and it's slightly more recently published than these other ones. This one was published around 2016, I think. And he actually mentioned this book in a 2017 live show, and he said it was super thought-provoking.
년생 김지영이라는 또 굉장히 베스트셀러죠. 두 권을 읽었는데 두 권 다 굉장히 시사하는 바가 많아서 여러 가지를 느꼈.
And this book, all I really know about it is that it's a coming-of-age story for this woman, and that it's a very feminist book, which makes me excited to check it out. And then lastly, the last book that I'm going to be reading for this video is Almond, which this is the book that he's read the most recently. He actually read this in 2020 during one of their seasons of In the Soup, which is kind of like a reality kind of show that BTS does when they go on a vacation and they like film it. And so he read this book while they were on vacation, and I'm especially excited to read this one because my other bias, Yoongi, he also read this during In the Soup. He actually read it right after Namjoon, and they both talked a lot about it and said that it was really great. And so it makes me happy that both of my biases have read this one. Like, it makes me have really high hopes, and it's, you know, it's one that I'm hoping that I'll enjoy. But all I know about this one is that we're following a young boy who is born with a brain condition that makes it hard for him to feel emotions, and especially like fear and anger. He struggles with those emotions, and he doesn't feel things the way that other people do. And so I think this will be a very interesting reading experience. So yeah, these are the 4 books that I'm going to be reading for this video. I feel like this video is also going to be a very fun and chaotic time because during the length of this video, J-Hope dropped his new song On the Street, and then Agust D tickets also went on sale. You know, my other bias, Yoongi. Yeah, it was a very stressful time to be a rap line girly, but it was also very fun and kind of the perfect time for me to film this vlog. Let me send you back a couple of days. Hello, hi, I wanted to update you because I have started on 1984. This morning, it's been snowing quite a bit, and I've had some of the worst cramps that I've had in years. Not gonna lie, it's been really tough this morning, so I just decided I'm just gonna stay in bed and start reading 1984 today, and I'm really glad that I did, to be honest, because this is one of the books that I was more nervous to read out of all of the books that I'm reading for this video, because this one is a classic and I have such, you know, hit or miss feelings about classics. But this one is actually, you know, really interesting so far because it's kind of like a dystopian novel that, you know, I've always heard that this book was like a warning to humanity about what we could look like if we were all ruled under the same thing. And so far, I don't know, I feel like this book is really interesting because they're all being ruled under this like big brother, or they have this like big brother that's always watching them. And I feel like in a way it's really creepy because of that. I love, there was a few moments that I tabbed because there was some really interesting discussion about like language and words and how under this new control, they are trying to deconstruct words basically, or they're trying to like make their vocabulary smaller so that people don't think as much. It honestly kind of reminds me of like Fahrenheit 451. Like that's one of the things that I could compare it to, at least out of the classics that I've read. I know this one probably actually came before that book, but the way that they're talking about how they think that there's hundreds of nouns that are like basically completely useless, and how there's a lot of synonyms for words that mean the same thing. So they're trying to like completely deconstruct the language, like the English language, to break it down into like only a few words. And they're saying how, you know, by the year 2050, all real knowledge of Old Speak will have disappeared. The whole literature of the past will have been destroyed. Even the literature of the party will change. Even the slogans will change. How could you have a slogan like freedom is slavery when the concept of freedom has been abolished? The whole climate of thought will be different. In fact, there will be no thought as we understand it now. And the way that they're acting like this is going to be a good thing is just really scary. You know, it is very dystopian in that way. I just hit part 2. I'm about 126 pages in right now, and this is honestly reading pretty quick. You know, I mean, this is kind of a shorter book, but I do think the audiobook, I'm listening to the audiobook as well, and the audiobook is a little bit long. It's about like 11 hours long, which I was like, wow, that's pretty long for how short this is. But I also think it's because the writing style in this book is pretty dense. Like these pages are pretty much packed with the text, you know, like there's not too many scenes with dialogue. Like it is a lot of like this guy kind of, you know, info dumping about this universe in a way, which to be honest was a little bit boring at the beginning. Like it took me a minute to get invested in the story, but right now where I'm at, I'm just kind of curious about the story and where it's going, because the author is introducing this like romance with this girl. Like our main character Winston is really interested in this girl that he keeps seeing, and I think that they're going to like start a rebellion together against like what's going on in their world. And I don't know, I'm kind of invested. Dare I say, I'm a little invested. Like I can definitely see why this book is a classic. I can see why it's so popular. I'm kind of glad though that I'm reading it now as an adult for the first time, because I do feel like if I had read this for the first time as a high schooler, I don't think I would have the same appreciation for it as I am right now, if that makes sense at all. I just feel like a lot of this maybe would have went a lot over my head if I was in high school, and so I'm kind of glad to be experiencing this book for the first time as an adult. Like I don't know, it's going pretty well so far. So I think I'm just gonna continue reading this a little bit later tonight. I think we are supposed to get a pretty decent amount of snow tonight from what I've heard, which is just wild, you know? I'm kind of ready for winter to be over at this point. But yeah, I think we're going to start some dinner, might watch some TV a little bit later, and then hopefully finish 1984 very soon.
Taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들 시간만 지나가 자신감 가지고 해와 그냥 천천히 들어가야 해 어쩔 때에는 무작정 들이밀기만 하지만 그런 거랑 차이가 있어 baby
Right, hello, it's the next afternoon. I had just left the house because I really wanted to get a nice coffee from one of my favorite spots, so I just went out and did that. I also had to drop off a few of my, you know, different library books, and last night it definitely did snow, but it's not sticking nearly as much as I thought it would. I really thought we were supposed to get hit with a snowstorm these last few days, but I guess not. But I did want to update you because I just finished reading 1984. I actually did read quite a bit of this before bed last night, but then I felt like my head was gonna freaking explode, and so I saved the rest of it for this morning while I was just like, you know, eating and getting things done. And this book was very interesting. You know, there was definitely a point in this book, I think it was chapter 9, where that chapter alone was like an hour and a half long, and it was literally like reading a textbook or something. Oh my god, it was so boring. It was like the longest info dump of all time. It was literally just like this character reading from this thing almost the entire chapter, I think. And so that chapter alone made me like want to bring my rating down down because I was like, what is the reason for this? Like, this writing style was not doing it for me. But with that being said, I think the concepts in this book are actually really incredible and amazing, and I totally understand why this book is a classic and why we still talk about it today. You know, like, this is definitely one of those books that's like incredibly thought-provoking and makes you think a lot about, you know, our lives and the way that we live our lives and the freedoms that we have. I think the idea of this like constant, you know, like big brother always watching us and, you know, complete lack of privacy and lack of, you know, personal thoughts is absolutely terrifying. Like, I can totally see why this book is so popular. And even though it wasn't like my favorite reading experience ever, I still really do love the ideas in this book, and I think this book is one that's just very thoughtful. Like, I can find myself thinking about this even after reading it. I know this is something that'll stay on my mind. There was this one part though that I tabbed that I just thought was so funny, because I mean, okay, this book did come out in like 1949, I think, is the year that it was first published. But listen to this quote. He says, "It had never before occurred to him that the body of a woman of 50, blown up to monstrous dimensions by childbearing, then hardened, roughened by work till it was coarse in the grain like an overripe turnip, could be beautiful. But it was so, and after all, he thought, why not?" Like, that line, I just thought that line was so funny, the way he's like, I never imagined, like, I never thought a woman like that could be beautiful. So funny. Like, if a man said this today, he would be so canceled. I don't know, I just thought that was kind of hilarious. I mean, you know, I know this book was published so long ago, but still, I feel like for me personally, I'm probably gonna give this around a 3 to a 3.5 star. Like, it wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I can definitely respect this story. I can respect what it did for like humanity at the time that this book probably came out. Like, I feel like this was way ahead of its time. With doing this video, I try to think of how, you know, RM talks about this book and the way that he has said that he's been rereading it a little bit later on in his life, and how he's taken so much more away from the story the second time that he's read it and when he was a little bit older. And it really makes me think if he relates, you know, at all to the discussion in this book about the lack of privacy, you know, and having your life really just kind of thrown in the spotlight. I feel like he can definitely make a lot of comparisons there, because I think at the time that he said he was rereading this, BTS had gone quite a bit, you know, bigger, like, as a celebrity. And so I feel like he has really started to understand what it's like to live your life in the eyes of the public. And I feel like that's where he could probably really draw a lot of, you know, connections to this story and to this character, where, you know, you're living in a world that has a complete lack of privacy. And I know obviously this is like a dystopian book and it's way to a different extreme than anything that we've experienced in our real lives, but I still think, you know, there is a lot to say about how hard it can be sometimes to be a celebrity when every aspect of your life is like, the public can just see everything you're doing all the time and can judge anything you're doing all the time. So I think there is something to be said about how challenging it can be to live a life that's so in the eye of the public, and the feeling of like you don't have any privacy or you don't have anything that's just your own. You know, I think he could probably relate to that in some ways. So like, I can definitely see why someone like him or like some kind of celebrity figure would also really appreciate certain aspects of this book as well. But yeah, this book was pretty, I don't know, like the last couple of pages there, I was like, oh shit, like something happened that I did not expect. Reading those last 4 words, I was like, oof. Isn't my little Namjoon bookmark just like the cutest little thing? I got it in my RM bias pack that I got last summer, and I'm obsessed with it. But anyways, I think I'm just gonna chill here. I got a scone. I got a white chocolate raspberry scone from my coffee shop. The best. This song is such a banger. This was my #1 song on Spotify last year. I hate you so. 여보세요. 그냥 핸드폰 보고 있었지. 자야지 이제. 바이. 새벽 2시 폰을 열어. 남들 인생 둘러보면. Right, hello, it is a little bit later in the night. It's about 11 o'clock right now. We made some dinner, which was really good. We made these like turkey tacos. I washed my hair. We've been watching this show on Netflix called Physical the 100, and it's this Korean like reality kind of like game show that's on Netflix where these people have to go like head to head and compete against each other. It's kind of like American Ninja Warrior in a way. Like it reminds me of that, but like the Korean version. It's so freaking intense. Like I'm kind of obsessed. We just watched 3 episodes and they're all like an hour long. But I also wanted to update you because I have started on Kim Jiyoung, born 1982. I think it's pronounced Jiyoung. I've been looking on Google trying to find pronunciations for it, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. But I did get 52 pages into this book, and this one's actually really short. Like I didn't even realize it's only 160 pages, so it's a lot shorter than I was anticipating. But I mean, this story is told in a very like straightforward way because the story's kind of broken up. It starts with like a flash forward kind of in autumn of 2015, and then we flash back to this character's childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, marriage, and then it's like the end. So we just kind of like follow her life in a very linear way, and the book is just divided into those parts. Like there's no chapters or anything. It's just kind of, you know, following the story of her life. And so far I'm like really impressed by the different, you know, feminist themes that I'm already seeing throughout this book, because right away it's talking about the, you know, specific hardships that women have to face, especially when it comes to just like normal day-to-day life in South Korea that men don't have to deal with. Like there was talk about how she's having this conversation with this woman and she's like, it's true, in elementary school I got the best grades out of all 5 of us. I was even better than your eldest uncle. And she's like, so why didn't you become a teacher? And she's like, well, I had to work to send my brothers to school. That's how it was with everyone. All women lived like that back then. Like the men's education was more of a priority than the women's. And then they're like, well, why don't you go to school now? And she's like, well, now I have to work to send you kids to school. That's how it is with everyone. All mothers live like this. And talking about like the sacrifices that mothers have to make to support their children. There was also another like really powerful scene when she's in elementary school and, you know, one of the teachers is talking about how she thinks that this one boy is picking on her because he likes her. And then she gets it in her head. She's like, boys are just like that. They're meaner to the girls that they like. As a society, we just start to accept that behavior and act like that's okay. For like, if a boy is bullying a girl, it means that he likes her. And the way that women are kind of trained at a young age to believe that if a man is acting rude to them, then that means that they like them. Like, I just love how this book is pointing out how weird that is, you know, because like that should not be the norm. There's also this really powerful scene too when they said teachers were in the habit of saying that girls are smarter. Students also thought that girls were smarter, more mature, and better with detailed work, but they somehow always elected boys to be class monitors. And just saying how even though like the girls in the school have higher expectations put on them to achieve more, you know, like they're expected to be smarter and more mature than the boys, but the boys are the ones getting elected to do like class monitor and have positions of power among the group. I think it's even really cool too because there's this part where she's talking about even up until the 1990s, the sex ratio imbalance at birth was a serious issue in Korea. Like this is something I didn't even know. They're saying to every 106.8 boys, there were only 100 girls. So like there was an even larger male population in the 90s than there were females, which I don't know if this is still an issue in Korea, but I think that's really interesting to kind of hear about that and learn about that. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm really enjoying this so far. I'm finding the writing style to be very like simplistic and easy to get into. And I don't know if that's because this was translated. Like sometimes I find with books that were translated from another language into English, usually the writing styles can be very like simplistic. And I don't know if that's because it was translated or why that might be, but it's also like this text is huge on these pages and I'm just flying through this book very easily. And yes, I am also tabbing a library book. Like I know I'm so annoying, but I wanted to be able to like flip back to the parts that I wanted to talk to you about because I feel like this book is just doing a lot for me so far, at least in terms of when it comes to, you know, like the feminist themes. I'm really enjoying like the discussion of how challenging it can be to be a woman in society and kind of the expectations that are put on women in society that men don't really have to deal with in the same way. And so overall, like so far I'm really impressed with this. I'm actually like so happy to see that, you know, RM is reading books like this because I do think it's important for men to read books like this. But anyways, I think I'm gonna call it a night for tonight and I think I'm gonna try to finish this one up tomorrow. Oh my gosh, today I got a freaking pre-sale code for the Agust D tour because if you haven't heard, Yoongi, you know, my boy, my other bias, okay, I have 2. It's RM and it's Suga for me, and Suga is going on a freaking solo tour under, you know, his alias Agust D. That's like his other stage name. But oh my gosh, I've been like fucking dying waiting to see if I was gonna get this army member pre-sale code, and I freaking got my pre-sale code today. Like, I was so lucky. I'm so freaking grateful that I got the pre-sale code, which means that tomorrow I'm gonna have my shot with Ticketmaster at getting tickets for the Agust D tour. And so, like, holy shit, I'm crossing all my fingers and toes that things go well for me tomorrow and I can actually get tickets to see him, because I feel like the demand is really high. Like, Ticketmaster keeps saying that the demand is ridiculously high. Like, there's way more of a demand than there are tickets available, and I'm just terrified. Like, I'm so lucky and grateful that I even got a code, but I know that getting a code does not guarantee that you're gonna get tickets. So I'm just like, ugh, I'm holding my breath. I'm so nervous. I don't know how I'm supposed to sleep tonight, and I don't know how I'm supposed to function all day tomorrow. Like, the tickets don't go on sale until 3 o'clock. Hello, it is like 2:30 in the afternoon, and you know, I thought I was gonna be reading the rest of this book today. LOL, joke's on me, I only got up to page 65. I've barely been able to fucking focus because these Agust D tickets are about to go on sale very soon. I am in the waiting room on Ticketmaster right now as we speak. I put on my BTS hoodie because I feel like it'll bring me good luck somehow. And I'm just freaking crossing my fingers at this point. Like, oh my god, I'm so nervous. We'll see. The tickets have already gone on sale for the East Coast, and I've been seeing so many people on Twitter like already getting tickets and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Like, oh my god, shit is moving pretty fast here. We're only 10 minutes in. Oh my god, yeah.
I told you it's gonna jump fast.
I feel like I'm going to war.
You're going to war? That's a class.
Oh fuck, oh my god, I'm entering. Oh my god, okay. 126. Let's go.
Gabby, there's only fucking
oh,
4.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't know. This thing is gonna.
Oh no. Oh my god,
What?
this is not good.
This is section 100 though.
I'm fucking sweating.
Oh
That's
my god.
$900,
What
bro.
the fuck?
Exit out of it, it'll take you back to this. Just do this.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
They're all going. Oh my god, there's only 500 left.
No fucking. Wait.
Wait. This is the worst time ever.
You're gonna have to.
Please, just send me through. Please. God damn it. Please.
This is so fucked up.
Please. Wait. Sir,
Oh
please.
my god.
Please.
Scroll down all the way to the fucking bottom.
I know.
People, everyone's grabbing the top ones.
Fuck. Please.
Lord, how?
Give me anything.
How, bro?
Literally anything, please.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Go.
Thank God. Yeah, the fuck. Oh, now I gotta buy my fucking flight too. Okay, sorry, that was really chaotic and ridiculous, but I got tickets. And the ticketing process, you know, going through Ticketmaster, that was way more stressful than I anticipated it being. Like, I was literally just sitting there clicking on so many different kinds of tickets, and it was just like, error, somebody already bought them. Like, I literally thought that I was not going to be able to get tickets because they were going so fast. I was literally sitting there scrolling for probably like a little less than 10 minutes just trying to click on all the different tickets, and they were disappearing. And so it was very stressful trying to get these tickets, but like, I managed it. The tickets were a little bit more expensive than I was expecting them to be, like, not gonna lie, especially after hearing the prices from the East Coast. Like, the LA shows were a lot more expensive, it seems like, than the East Coast shows. So like, that was a little bit like, what the fuck? But I don't even care. You know, at this point, I'm just like, thank God. Like, I got the fucking tickets. I don't think it's fully processed in my brain because I still think my brain is in like stressed out mode right now of like trying to get the tickets. Like, it hasn't fully processed that like it's actually happening. I'm actually going. I just bought my plane tickets right now to California. Just so excited. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be like my first ever BTS kind of concert thing, you know? And what better person than with Yoongi? Like, one of my actual biases. Like, let's fucking go. Anyways, right now I'm getting ready to go over to dinner at my parents' house. We're gonna be having like a Mexican food dinner night and just hanging out, catching up. And then, I don't know, maybe hopefully later tonight I can try to finish this one. I don't know, dude, but today my brain is like scrambled eggs.
Oh, buddy, dinner is good. Oh, well, thank God. Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
저는 본이 좋습니다. 그녀들이 얘기합니다.
Okay, hello. It is the next afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I have finally finished reading Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, and this book was very thought-provoking. I think that, Namjoon is definitely correct in saying that this book is very thought-provoking and very interesting. I was really surprised, by the amount of feminist themes throughout this book, and it's kind of cool, like, the way that this book is written, because I feel like at times it almost reads more like a nonfiction book, because it'll start giving you like statistics about different things in Korea, like when it's talking about, things that she's experiencing as a woman in Korea. Like there was a part in this book where, it literally like cites its sources at the bottom too, with like the facts that it's saying, which is really interesting, like, and something that I don't usually see in fictional books. Women don't stay at certain companies because of the issue with like maternity leave, and a lot of companies will not even offer maternity leave, and it says the percentage of female employees who use maternity leave has increased from 20% in 2003 to more than half in 2009. And it's saying how there's so many companies who don't want to hire women just because of this issue of having to give them maternity leave. But it's just really interesting because, while this main character is dealing with like her pregnancy and like anything that she's going through, it'll kind of talk about what I'm assuming is like true statistics for Korea. So it's kind of cool because it would almost read kind of like nonfiction at times because of the way that it's written. There was another scene too where she was talking about the difference between interviewing for a job as a man versus a woman, and how so often men will have a better chance at the job just because they're men. And it also talks about how the gender pay gap in Korea is the highest among the OECD countries. And it even says, according to 2014 data, women working in Korea earn only 63% of what men earn. And just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like this book also touches on something that I love to see talked about in books, and that's the expectation of women to be mothers, and the expectation that like all women want to be mothers and would choose to give up work in order to be a mother. And I think that's definitely a really great conversation that these characters have in this book as well, like this whole thing of like, well, what if this is not what I want for my life, and what if I don't want to be a mother, and what if this is not something I wanted, and it's like really freaking difficult and really hard for her to be a mother. And the way that her husband uses language like, don't worry, like I'll help out. And it's, she gets upset because she's like, why are you saying you'll help out, as if you're like volunteering your time to help raise our child? Like the way they act like it's the woman's responsibility to take on all of the things when it comes to raising a child, and that he'll just be there to help sometimes. And then there was also this really thought-provoking quote when they were talking about like, because there was a point where they were going to have to figure out if their child was going to take his last name or her last name, and she was kind of talking about how it would probably just be easier for the baby to take his last name, because then it would be against the norm of society or whatever if the baby had to take her name, because then they'd have to like explain it to everyone, and they think that there would be a much bigger backstory or a reason to why the baby would have had to take her last name. And I just saw this quote that was like at the end of that part where they said, do laws and institutions change values, or do values drive laws and institutions? And I was like, that is a very interesting and thought-provoking quote, because I always question why things are the way they are. Like, why do we always have to take the last name of the man? Like, why was that a thing to begin with, I also do think it's interesting because at one point in this book, when she's a little bit younger, she talks about her first boyfriend, and how after his like second year of college, he had to go and leave for his military service, and how that was like so hard on their family. And if you're completely, unfamiliar with South Korea and some of their laws, if you didn't know, any men men under the age of 30 are required to serve in the military for 18 months to 2 years. And that's like at any point, any like male citizen that lives in Korea before the age of 30, they have to serve at least like 2 years in the military. And that's still a law to this day. And I think that it's really interesting that this book kind of talked about how hard that was on their families, and how this guy was saying how he felt so depressed because he felt like he was wasting, you know, some of the prime years in his life in his 20s, you know. And I think that's still so wild that they're still doing this today. And it's really ironic, you know, that I'm making this video now, because if you didn't know, BTS is actually currently on their break right now because all of them are going to be serving in the military over these next 2 years. And so I just think the fact that this book mentions that and how difficult that can be on not only, you know, these men who are required to go and do these military service arrangements, but then also like how hard that is on their families to just have to, you know, go without them for like 1.5 to 2 years, and how it's so wild to me that that's something that is still required in the year of 2023. Like, what the heck? But yeah, overall, this was really interesting. I just really love the way that this book touched on all of those things, and I thought this character that we were following was very interesting. I've never read a book quite like this either, when it's just broken up into different parts and you just kind of get to see like her early childhood, her teenagehood, her college years. Like the way it was divided was also really interesting, and because it read like a nonfiction at times, it felt like I was really learning so much about what it's like to be a woman in South Korea, and I just really appreciate that. I think for me, this is probably going to be like a 4 stars, maybe like 4.5 stars. Like, I thought it was really well done, and I'm so glad to know that Namjoon has read a book like this, that it's something that he enjoyed and that he thought it was thought-provoking, because I do think books like this, I think they're so important for men to be reading, because then it gives them, you know, more of a perspective and more of an understanding of what it could really be like to be a woman living in society, you know? So I really enjoyed my time reading this. I'm so glad that I read it. I think I'm going to start on The Stranger next, because I was able to get the audiobook for this one from my library. The Stranger audiobook is pretty short. It's only 3 hours and 30 minutes, so I might be able to listen to this all within one go. I don't really know yet, so I'm gonna start on this one now. Hey, hi, I'm back with an update because I have already finished listening to The Stranger. I was listening to it on 2.5 times speed, and I was able to get through it in like 1 hour and 30 minutes, and so that's one of the quickest audiobook experiences that I've ever had. Main little premise, like the blurb that it gives me on the audiobook, it just says that when a young man kills another man, his subsequent imprisonment and trial are puzzling and absurd. And I feel like this story was really interesting. I'm not gonna lie, the beginning was seriously boring me to tears. Like, the beginning was so freaking slow. It was doing that thing that like a lot of classics do, where it was just like not that engaging and not that interesting. I mean, I will admit though, the opening line of this book was incredibly interesting. You know, it was like that line that Namjoon mentioned when he was doing that live show, when he says, "Mother died today," or maybe yesterday, I can't be sure. Like, how can you not be sure? And I just think this character in general in this book was a really interesting character to follow. I feel like this is one of those books that brings up so many interesting points about, you know, religion and like the idea of an afterlife and how we're expected to live our lives a certain way so that we can live peacefully in an afterlife potentially. I just think it's really interesting to hear about different people's beliefs on what makes someone live a good life. It's so interesting, you know, because I feel like this is one of those books where the plot of the book was so boring. Like, the plot of the book was so freaking boring, but the ideas in this book are absolutely fascinating. And this is the kind of thought-provoking shit that I love to read about and to discuss. Like, just the topic alone of discussing like what is life and what makes life worth living and what makes life valuable. Those conversations are so present in this book, and they're so interesting, especially because you're following from the perspective of someone who's taken the life of another man and who is now dealing with the consequences of that, and essentially having his own life potentially taken from him as well, and what that looks like. I feel positive now that like I could recommend Namjoon some of my favorite books and that he would enjoy them, because I genuinely feel like if you enjoyed these topics that are talked about in The Stranger, because they're very thought-provoking and interesting, I feel like he would probably love Notes on an Execution, which was one of my favorite books of last year, because this book has very similar themes to The Stranger, where, you know, we're following following the perspective of a man who's killed people and he's currently sitting on death row, and he's kind of talking about his perspective on things. I do think this is like one of the most thought-provoking books that I've ever read, and I just noticed a lot of similar themes that are in The Stranger. They definitely come up in this book. And then also one of my all-time favorite books, We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I feel like I can draw similar connections from this book to The Stranger as well, because of the idea that like life is bullshit, and like why are we all trying so hard to live a certain way when we're all gonna die eventually, and like nothing really matters the way that we all think things matter. I don't know, like I definitely got that energy from The Stranger. Like some of those monologue moments when our protagonist was like talking to some of the other characters were very much giving Henry from We Are the Ants vibes. I was like, okay, I'm right there, I can see what you're saying. And I just love books like this that kind of discuss, you know, like our lives and like what is the point of being alive, what is the point of living here, and like what is the point of human life. And I feel like this is definitely one of those books that makes you have that like existential crisis of like thinking those things, like what is the point of it all. So far I am just I'm very impressed by Namjoon's book recommendations. I feel like we do have similar tastes when it comes to books, and that makes me happy. I don't know like what my rating for this is gonna be, because as I said, I do think the plot of this book was pretty boring. Like I was pretty bored to tears during some of it, but then there were some conversations like that just really sparked like my freaking intrigue. And I love books that are of this nature. Like I love books that talk about things like this, so I'm feeling like this one is maybe going to be around a 4-star for me. I don't know, I think I need to think about it more. But I thought while I was with you on camera, I have these different Korean snacks that I've gotten recently. I recently ordered myself a Clute box, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like a K-pop fan subscription box type of thing. And in that box they had not only like BTS related like merch type of things and stuff, which was also really cute, but they did have these Korean types of snacks that I've been wanting to try, and I thought what better time to try them than with you on this video. I mean, I don't know if RM enjoys these snacks or has ever tried them, but I just thought because they're, you know, Korean and because I've never tried them, I thought it would be fun to try them with you. So this first one, I don't really know what this is because at this point in time I cannot speak Korean or read Korean, but it looks like it's these little, like, I don't know if these are peanuts with like chocolate in here. I don't really know. Ooh, this smells delightful. Oh my gosh. This looks a little bit like orangier than I was expecting. Whoa, way crunchier than I thought it was gonna be. But yeah, that was definitely peanuts. I mean, I do see that there's like a giant peanut on the back here, so I know that these are peanuts, but I don't know what this outer shell texture thing is. These are pretty good. I feel like if you're someone who really likes peanuts or like peanut buttery things, then I think you would enjoy this. I do think it's like a little bit dry though. Like it needs something to make it more like moist. And then we have these, which I really don't know what these are either. It looks like there's something coated around chocolate or something like that. This is not what I was expecting it to look like, but they just kind of look like, okay, so I don't know if this is chocolate in the middle of this like, you know, little circular thing, but let's just try it. Oh my gosh, okay, these are good. The heck, these are so much softer than I was anticipating. I think after having those other ones that were so crunchy, I thought these were all gonna be crunchy, but these are freaking soft and they're so good. Just noticed on the side here, it says Home Run Ball Chocolate? I think these are chocolate for sure. These are so good though, like whatever this is on the outside, this like breadiness is very flaky and it's kind of delicious. Wow, what a lovely surprise, and how cool that I got to try my first ever Korean snacks with you all. I'm very much looking forward to tonight, because tonight J-Hope is dropping a new song called On the Street, and apparently it's gonna have J. Cole. Like he posted a little teaser of it last night, and freaking J. Cole is gonna be on the song with him. Like what the heck? He was literally fangirling so hard over J. Cole at Lollapalooza when they performed there together. I mean, they performed at different times, but they were there. He was like literally fangirling over J. Cole so hard, and like the fact that he gets to work with him now, oh my god. I'm so proud of this man, literally so proud of J-Hope, and I cannot wait to hear this new song tonight. Like, Hobie, let's go. I'm like trying to not think about the fact that he's gonna have to enlist for the military probably very soon after this single comes out, because this is gonna be like his last thing, I think, before he goes to the military. I'm trying not to think about that, you know, because that's gonna be very sad. Like, I think J-Hope leaving for the military is like one of the ones that's making me the most upset, you know, because J-Hope is just so precious. On the street. Anyways, new J-Hope song in like 5 minutes. And J-Hope was just live on Weverse. And that was the cutest live ever. Like he was in a park, like running around, dancing. It was so cute. Oh my gosh. Am I gonna cry? I know, that was, yeah, that was a little bit more J. Cole than I was anticipating. That was so cute. I'm so proud of him. Like, I'm so happy that he got to work with J. Cole because I know that's an artist that he like admires and respects so much. And I also love the like lo-fi hip-hop kind of like vibe to it, and it's like it really does feel like J-Hope style, you know, and the way that was all in New York, oh, it was so beautiful.
널 만나기 전 누군가를 위해 노래한 적 없어 길어지는 대화 속 정신 못 차린 입이 웃고 있어 모두 말해 내게 꿈깨를 분명 실망할 테니 수빈 무의미해 네 매력은 또 변화구를 던져 가슈 그 누구보다 눈이 참 예뻐 Yeah you 그 누구보다 사랑스러워 Yeah you 찾아 헤매이던 내 반쪽 I feel so free Oh my sweet baby.
Right, hello, it is the next afternoon and I wanted to do a quick update with you because I have been reading Almond all morning and I'm now 112 pages into this, and like I don't want to jinx it, but I'm feeling like this could be a 5-star book for me. Like I am absolutely loving this so far, and I'm so glad too because I decided to like save this one for last, you know, and it ended up working out perfectly because I feel like this is the one that I'm loving the most so far. So in this story we're following this young boy who was born with this brain condition where he doesn't feel things like fear or anger. It's like it's really hard for him to feel different emotions, and so people think that there's like something seriously wrong with him because of it. Like it starts when he's young, you know, like his mom notices that he doesn't ever smile as a baby and it seems like something could be off there, so she's like taking him to all these doctors. They're trying to figure out what could be wrong with him, and they find out that it's not autism and it's not like certain things that you might assume with like these kind of symptoms, but they end up diagnosing him with this condition called alexithymia. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's basically like this condition where he doesn't know how to feel certain emotions like fear or anger or anything like that. And so we kind of follow him, you know, during his childhood as, you know, people are saying like he's getting a lot of attention in school because of this. It's really interesting because you find out pretty much right away that the book is called Almond because he's saying that everybody has 2 almonds inside their head, which is like the amygdala, which is like, you know, where you feel emotions, like that's where you process your emotions. And he's saying my almonds don't seem to work very well. The words emotion and empathy are just meaningless letters in print. And then he goes on to talk about how like it's not necessarily that I was unable to express feelings, but more that I was unable to identify them in the first place. People sometimes say how cool it would be to be fearless, but they don't know what they're talking about. Fear is an instinctive defense mechanism necessary for survival. Not knowing fear doesn't mean that you're brave. It means that you're stupid enough to stay standing on the road when a car is charging towards you. And I just think so far reading from his perspective is just so freaking fascinating. I mean, I've never read a character before that has this specific brain condition, and so just reading from his point of view is just absolutely fascinating so far. I also love that his family in this book, like it's just his mom and his grandma that are raising him, and I love that their family owns a used bookstore, and so there's so much like description about the used bookstore in this book and how he feels really connected to books, because he says with books, he says books took me to places I could never go otherwise. They shared the confessions of people I'd never met and lives I'd never witnessed. The emotions I could never feel and the events I hadn't experienced could all be found in those volumes. Oh my gosh, So this book was really intense because right at the end of part 1, which this is not a spoiler or anything because it does talk about this on the back of the book here, and we kind of do get a flash forward right at the beginning that talks about this. Right at the beginning of this story, his mom and his grandma are brutally murdered, like right in front of him. He doesn't really feel anything, you know, like he doesn't feel like anger or terror or fear. He just has all these questions like, why would this person do that? Why would they react this way? Why is this happening to my family? And it's really interesting the way that he reacts to this and the way that his life changes because of this. I think even the prologue was just written so well, and it just kind of like grips you right away because right at the beginning he says, this is a story in short about a monster meeting another monster, and one of the monsters is me. And then he goes on to say like, I can't tell you whether this will be a happy ending or a tragic ending because first of all, every story becomes boring once the ending is spoiled. Second of all, not telling you will make you more engaged in this one. And lastly, I know it sounds like an excuse, but neither you nor I nor anyone can ever really know whether a story is happy or tragic. Like that's a really beautiful way to kick off this story. And I feel like ever since, you know, the ending of part 1, the beginning of part 2, I've just become even more invested in this character and like what his daily life looks like now that his grandma and his mom aren't there to like help him, you know, kind of navigate the world and navigate emotions. Gosh, I'm just freaking loving this. Like I'm loving this so much more than I thought I would. But anyways, I am currently going to get ready. I think I'm just gonna straighten my hair and maybe change, and I'm gonna go to dinner with my mom. We're gonna be trying this local place that's like a K-pop chicken and beer kind of place. I've never been to it before, but I thought, you know, for this vlog, I thought it would be so perfect for me to go and like take you with me and check it out, you know? And so my mom said she's down. So cute, obsessed. We're here.
So cute.
Yeah, there's cute little signs that say extra crispy fried chicken and beer. So
I'm in heaven.
we'll check it out. I think it looks pretty cute. Alright, here we go. K-pop chicken and beer. Let's do it. We've got a 17 poster picture right there. Across the way, BTS. Oh wow. Got some chicken wings. This is a Korean corn dog. And then this is kimchi fried rice. My first time. How exciting. This is huge. Oh. Wow. That was all cheese. Oh my gosh.
It's so good.
Wow. You should try this.
Yeah.
It's so good. That was like really good cheese. It's good. Like that outer crispiness. Delish. So thoughts?
That was really good.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was even better than I thought it was gonna be, to be honest.
So such a sweetheart girl that worked.
Yeah, the waitress was super kind. She was helping us look up parking information to see if we had to pay for parking.
Yep.
And it was all around a great experience. Like this fried rice is so flavorful.
And that
Oh my
whatever
God.
you had was the hot dog or
Yeah, the corn dog, the Korean corn dog.
Cheese. If you
That was
like
a 10 out of
cheese,
10.
Go for it.
That was so good.
the best fried chicken I think I've had. Super crispy.
So now we're gonna go crepes for
I know.
dessert. Yes! I am home from a very fun night out with my mom. We went to the, the K-pop chicken and beer restaurant. It was actually so fucking good. I have plans now. I want to take my dad there. I want to take Rachel and Obed there. I want to take my friend Brittany there. Like, it was delicious. It was so much better than I even thought it was gonna be. Like, wow, that was amazing. I had such a great time. And then we went and got some crepes afterwards for dessert, which was like so freaking 10 out of 10. And then after I got home, I was able to finish reading Almond. And I'm so excited to be ending this vlog on such a positive note because I think I'm giving this book 5 stars. Like, this book was absolutely incredible. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't the biggest fan of, like, I don't know, the way the story, like the way the plot ended up going towards the end. I'm still not totally sure how I feel about it, but that epilogue just like really spoke to me. And the writing in this book was just so freaking beautiful and it meant so much to me. Like, I don't know, I really felt a lot with this story. I really feel moved by this character and all he had to go through in this book. And I feel like this is undoubtedly like a 5-star book. Like, it was just so freaking good. Like, the characterization was just done so well and the writing is done in a way that is just very thought-provoking, you know, like the idea of like human emotion and like what that means and like how that makes someone who they are. And like even just random quotes that are talking about like love and life, I just really, you know, connected with and really related to. Like this character talks about like, can the word love be thrown around so casually, you know, because he's saying how like when a K-pop group is like on stage accepting their award and they're just saying like, we love you to the fans, and he's like, how can people just use that word love so casually? It says, from what I understood, love was an extreme idea, a word that seemed to force something undefinable into the prison of letters, but the word was used so easily, so often. People spoke of love so casually, just to mean the slightest pleasure or thanks. And I just think that's so like interesting. I feel like these are things that I think about all the time, but I never know exactly how to like verbalize my thoughts on that. And I totally agree that the word, you know, love is just thrown around so casually, and it makes the word a little bit more meaningless than I think it should be because the word is used so casually all the time. I love the idea too, like there was something brought up in this book about how tragedies, like the more distant the tragedy is, the more easy people are willing to accept it, because like the tragedies in our lives are only so tragic because there are tragedies, you know. And like there's this quote from his grandma when they said, a tragedy that's too distant cannot be your tragedy. And so like I guess in a way that's true, you know, because like there's people experiencing tragedies like every single day in the world, and like you can't know the pain of all of that, you know, like your tragedies are only yours because they happened to you and because it was close to you. But then he also struggles with the idea of like, well then why didn't anybody do anything, you know, like when people were just here witnessing like his grandma and his mom being murdered, he's like, nobody here did anything, like we all experienced this tragedy together. And he realizes like most people could feel but they didn't act, and they said they sympathized but then easily forgot. And I just feel like those lines were so powerful, especially, you know, coming from someone who cannot feel those emotions. Like the way he reacts to things is just so unique and so different, but still so valid. And he just has so many great points about like life and different things and how weird certain things that humans do are. This book, honestly, like some of it kind of just a little bit reminded me of, you know, one of my favorite books of all time, The Humans by Matt Haig. It just kind of had that same, you know, kind of curiosity about humanity and like wonder about humanity and why our brains work the way they do, and just kind of being curious about other people and how they function. I feel like it really had a similar vibe to me with this book, at least like that's the connection that I made there. And I love that I can find so many connections of like some of my favorite books of all time with some of, you know, RM's book recommendations. Like I just think that's so freaking cool, because I really do feel like, you know, we have similar taste after reading all of these books. I'm so glad that I saved the best for last, in my opinion. Like this was definitely a 5-star. This is definitely something I'm going to be thinking about a lot. And I feel like this book is so short. It's only about like 250 pages. I feel like this is something you can easily get through in like one sitting, you know, because it's very easy to get into, easy to read, and it's just so quick, you know, and I really do love that about it. So yeah, I guess that is a wrap on this video. Oh my gosh, I have had the most fun week reading all of RM's book recommendations. I feel like I understand him now even better on like an intellectual level, and it just makes me happy to know that he's reading these really thought-provoking, really interesting books. Like I feel like he's just one of those readers that really gravitates towards these books that make you think about the world and make you think about life, and I love that so much. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if you've read any of the books in this video. I would love to know if you've read any, what your thoughts are on them. I would also love to know if you would like to see a potential round 2 of this in the future, because my boy Namjoon, he reads quite a bit. He reads a lot, and there's a whole laundry list. Like there is a whole list of about 50 books that I could, you know, potentially read in the future for videos like this. So let me know if this is something you would like to see, or if you would like to see me do this video for like any other celebrities. I mean, the only other celebrity I'd probably consider doing, to be honest, is Taylor Swift. But yeah, and I would also love to know, you know, if you are a BTS girly, if you are a BTS fan, if you are ARMY, I would love to know like who is your bias, you know, like who is your bias and what is your favorite BTS song? Let's fangirl in the chat. Thank you so much for being here as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.